Good evening and welcome to the Chrissy B Show. Now, you may think being a perfectionist is a great thing. You get things done, you work hard, things are of a high standard, but could you be causing yourself more harm than good? And what about those around you? Could you be, example, driving your partner up the wall with your perfect ways? Now, normally perfectionists know who they are, but in case you don't, during the show, we'll be revealing some signs that will help you to identify whether you are one or not. My guests tonight are Thea Jolly, a happiness coach and recovering perfectionist, and also Tony Marturano. I got the name right.
You did, well done.
Marturano, writer and novelist. And joining us by Skype from America is Dr. Jess Zemansky. I hope I've pronounced that correctly. And he's a clinical psychologist and creator of the Perfectionist Handbook. Later on, we'll also be featuring a lovely ladies at lunch, and personal development coach Chris Brown will also be joining us. So are you a perfectionist? How does that affect or even enhance your life? Do you live with a perfectionist? What's it like? So you can also participate. You can email on chris@chrissybshow.tv, and you can also call on 020-7686-6300. So let's introduce our guests for tonight. That's Thea and Tony. Good evening.
Hi there, Chris.
Hello.
Lovely to have you on the show.
Thanks for
It's good to be here.
So both recovering perfectionists, although I don't know if we can completely get out of our system.
Not completely, no.
All right, and also you're...
I'm
I
just
would say
perfectionist. I'm
you
not
are a
recovering.
perfectionist.
I still am.
You still are. Okay, then. Can you tell me briefly what you both do? Do you want to start with Thea?
Yes, I'm a happiness coach. I mainly work with mums and help them become more calm and confident and at peace with themselves, and hopefully create happier families.
Mums go through a lot, don't they?
Yeah,
a lot of stress.
Yeah,
and a lot of expectations are on them.
It's an emotional roller coaster, and it's kind of helping them deal with that, really.
Lovely. And Tony?
I'm a writer, as you know. I'm also a company director. I own a software company in Cambridge.
You had a long list of ones. I was
Yes,
reading your...
yes. We haven't got enough time here tonight, Chris.
Let me find it. Is it here? Let me find it. No, carry on while I find it.
And that's pretty much it. I've been writing for many, many years
No, it wasn't
now.
much of that. See, I'm sure I read more about you. You've done quite a lot of stuff.
Yes.
Written several plays in the 90s.
That's right.
Which was staged throughout East Anglia. Written one novel, Nimbus, published, and I currently work on another one. You're a semi-professional photographer. You're managing editor of Topical magazine, A Different Angle, which then became a blog, which
That's
you have
right.
now,
It's the
right?
blog.
And you're also the director of a successful Cambridge software company. So I can see
Pretty
why
much
you
a
call
know-it-all.
yourself a perfectionist.
Yes, I guess so, yeah.
Okay, that's great.
Keeps me very busy, that's for sure.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so we're here to talk about being a perfectionist. So I admitted to you earlier that I am a bit of a perfectionist, and I think maybe it kind of stemmed from my childhood, because my dad was pretty strict and he demanded quite a lot from my sister and myself. So, I mean, he was nice about it. He wasn't sort of nasty or anything like that, but he did demand a lot, and we had to get things done on time, and things had to be done really well and perfectly. So, but it kind of led me to feel a bit insecure sometimes, and always thinking that I'd never quite measured up. So I don't know how it was for you guys. How was it for you?
Well, I've always been quite hard on myself and had very high expectations and always very high standards, always wanting to do my best. And
Where did that come from?
I'm not 100% sure, but it's probably my parents always had an implicit kind of expectations of me that we'd behave well and we'd have to study and go to university.
Yeah.
There was no kind of do this, do that. It was kind of expected of us without words, really.
You.
Yes, I think so,
Is it a look?
perhaps. Yeah, and then my parents divorced when I was about 7, and I think I was the eldest child, so I took on the sensible, trying to make sure everything was okay and running smoothly, and you know, that kind of thing.
Do you feel like you had to take over and
Well,
had the responsibility on you?
possibly, yeah. And that we had to behave well to make it easier for our parents, maybe. I don't know, I haven't really gone into it too much about it, but that might have a little bit of effect.
Okay, well, let's look at some of the positives of being a perfectionist. So what would you say, Tony?
I think there are a lot of positives. Ultimately, I think perfectionism comes from the fact that we all want to achieve. We want to create something. We want to complete a project, and we want it to be the best that it can be. And there's an immense sense of satisfaction coming from that. I know we host a lot of dinner parties, and they're of a certain standard. And I know that when my guests come in for the evening and they walk into the room, and they see it looking just right, that is an immense sense of satisfaction to me. So I think perfectionism definitely can be corrosive, but I think that there are degrees of perfectionism. You know, when your life's ruled by it, then it clearly...
But where would you say you are?
Luckily, I think I'm fairly average there. I think I can, you know, I know it's there, and I know I just want it to be the best that it is, but it doesn't necessarily... I was just thinking of people back home. So I was about to say it doesn't rule me, and then I was thinking of people back home who are probably going to be thinking, yeah, right.
Sit down.
But it doesn't. I think I'm able to appreciate things as well. I can kind of look at something, so I've done the best I can do here, and not feel bad about it. But if it wasn't quite the way it should have been, then I just learn from that, and next time round I just.
Or do you like feel bad about it and start beating
No, I
yourself
don't.
up a bit?
I don't agonise, and so, of course at the time I'll be, that could have been much better than it could have been, and next time round maybe I'll do that a different way. But then I will try and take out the positives from that. And the majority of the time, people, I mean, like if it's an event, people don't even notice it. You know, I'll be agonising over this detail, but I'm able to tell myself that and say, Tony, realistically, come on now, that, you know, it's not really that important.
Okay. Now, in your case, it was a bit different there, wasn't it? Because you started to, I think you took it a bit too far.
Yeah.
And such. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, I think because I've always had it, I didn't realise that it was a bad thing. I've always been quite proud of being, you know, having high standards and being a perfectionist. And I thought that I was going to be the one who had to push myself. No one else was going to do it. But then after having children, my perfectionist tendencies came out and wanted to be the perfect mum, and yeah, I know it's you can't be. Yes, it is. There is. I mean, all mums have pressure, and you just want to do it the best you can. But I had really high expectations of what my best should be, and obviously I didn't often
Can you give
get
us some
there.
examples of that?
Well, you know, because I trained as a life coach, I had all these ideas of helping my children be more emotionally aware of, you know, and resilient, and being kind to each other and respecting each other, and, you know, being grateful about life and all these things. And I had all these ideas of what to do with them, but everyday life just takes over, and, you know, and you don't get round to doing all these things, and then you might shout at your child and you're not patient with them. You know, I wasn't patient with them, and I'd get angry, and then I'd just beat myself up. And then,
so you weren't angry at them,
no,
it was because of the way you thought you would be a certain way, and then when you actually came to the crunch, because it's different. It's a lot of pressure on a mum, isn't it?
Yeah.
And like, I mean, I think mums do such a great job already, but some people don't realise what they go through.
I know, and it's. I think lots of mums beat themselves up, and, you know, and apologise for things and think they could be better and feel guilty for this and guilty for that. But I think it's not a good way to be, because even though I knew that I was a good mum, that wasn't good enough for me. I wanted to be the best that I could be, and I just and actually what happens is, when you're feeling like that, it stops you being the best you can be. It's self-defeating, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's very, very judgmental, and you can't really function properly. You don't perform properly if you're judging yourself.
I've actually got some tips here, not tips, or I should say, like some signs and symptoms that you may be perfectionist. So as I said, most people do know that they are, but when is it sort of a problem? So see, these are signs and symptoms. So you could be very judgmental. You're constantly evaluating and being critical of yourself and others. Now, with this, I don't think it's such a bad thing to be critical of yourself, because most people, they don't. No, the others are, that's something different. But of yourself, I think that's a good, not in the way you put yourself down.
It depends how you do it. You can kind of say, I could have done that better. But you don't say, oh, you're so rubbish. You know, exactly. It depends how you do it, really. If you do it with compassion, then you're able to then learn from it and change, which is probably what you do. It sounds like what you do.
Chronic dissatisfaction, Tony?
No.
Whatever you do or accomplish or acquire never feels good enough. Perfectionists are rarely satisfied with anything.
I think there's some people, I think that's more of the extreme cases.
That is sounds very almost bordering on the OCD, which is a different story. You know, it's a condition. No, I can be satisfied with certain things.
Can you be controlling though? Because I know I can.
Yeah, I think that's,
so that's a sign.
So absolutely
that's
controlling.
A big sign, definitely.
You often have to have a word with yourself, and you say, you know, my sister and I always having this conversation. It's like you just have to come to terms with the fact not everybody is like you, and that's the thing. Is that you expect everybody to have the same standard, or it's my standard. It's not necessarily the standard, But people don't think like you. And you may think, well, wouldn't it be easy to just do this that way? Or it's much easier to do it that way. Why wouldn't you do that? But the reality is not everybody is thinking the same way as you are. So you have to have a word with yourself and say, do you know what? You are you and other people are other people. And you have to try and respect what they are like. And it's a constant struggle because you just assume it's simple. Why wouldn't you do it that way? But not necessarily for the other person.
You need to learn to trust people as well, because I had this, I have to admit to everyone, you at home as well, because I like to be honest about myself. I had this recently where I had a new producer, and I hope you don't mind me talking about this. Lovely darling, I love you. She's in my ear as well.
You're going to get it.
It was someone that I was always used to kind of doing things myself with shows in the past and taking control of everything. And then so we got a new producer, and she was going to be producing this show. And then we were clashing quite a bit at the beginning, because it's like she's also very sort of responsible about her work, and she does, she works really hard. Don't get a big head, Joanna. She works really hard and everything, and but I wasn't used to kind of letting things go. I was used to doing things myself. So we had some clashes at the beginning where we kind of didn't agree with one another, and a few little kind of short arguments and stuff. And then I realised, look, I have to learn to actually trust other people with work as well. I have to let go of some things and not be so full on, because it does affect your working relationship with people. It really does, because if you think that it has to be your way all the time, and the way you do things is the right way, and not be open to other suggestions as well. It's kind of really, you cause a very sort of bad kind of, what's it called, environment as well.
Oh, very negative, very corrosive.
And that's still something I'm working on, because I still find it hard to kind of let go of things, and I'm really trying.
I found that with my family as well.
Yeah.
I was very controlling, and I wanted to control everything my children did. And obviously, my eldest is 10 now. I can't control what he does, and I probably haven't been able to for quite a few years. And I kind of resisted letting him go a bit more, and just standing back and going, you can't control what's going on. You can't control other people. You've just got to try and model ways of behaving and ways of doing things.
That's right. We can only change ourselves, right? As the saying goes, we can't change other people. So let's take a couple of comments as well from our viewers. Amelia.
We have a comment here from Jessie. She comments, I'm a perfectionist, which can most of the time lead me to over-analysing everything. I keep checking things to make sure I don't make a mistake. For example, an email can take me as long as 40 minutes to send, because if it's not perfect, I will keep redoing it until it is.
Whoa. Wow.
On one hand, it can be a good thing because you become used to not doing things just anyhow, but on the other hand, it can be time consuming.
Yeah, I bet 40 minutes
as a director of a company, if my employees took that long to send out an email, obviously the first thing I would do would be, why did it take you so long? You're not working smart. But that is totally recognisable, because you will overanalyze something over and over, and obviously that's what's happening here, and productivity just goes through the ground. So whilst you're striving to be perfect with the email, ultimately you're not being productive at all. I mean, you can imagine at 40 minutes of time. Wow.
It's okay to have a comma out of place. Actually, I used to do this at uni. When I used to give my assignments in, if I saw a comma missing, I would go away and redo the whole, print everything again and redo it just to give it in perfectly. So it was over the top.
Yeah.
But I got a degree
It's
at the end of
interesting that it shows how everybody has different kind of variations of being perfectionist, in a different area of their life and to a different extreme, and it all comes from different things. And because we all have a different idea of what perfection is, for some people, I don't really care whether my house is completely perfectly clean or anything, tidy, and some people that's where their idea of perfection comes from, whereas mine is more about how people behave and how my children behave in
different areas, right?
Yeah, definitely. So it's really interesting.
Let's take another comment as well from our viewers.
We have a comment here from Marlene. I actually laughed at this one. I'm not a perfectionist to heart, but I'm in certain aspects of my day-to-day life. I like things to be done properly in certain ways. If I'm going food shopping, I like to sort out my shopping per bags, fridge, toiletries, cupboards, vegetables and fruits. If I'm at work, I try to be a perfectionist by doing everything by the rules, complete my work per sections in good time, and try not to work under pressure. No one is perfect, and no one will ever be, but if you try to do the best of what you can, you'll be perfect on what you do.
See, I quite like that. I mean, everybody laughed about the groceries.
Yeah.
But to me, that's logical.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, you know what, and I do this as well, if I pack all my frozen foods in one bag and I pack all my chilled foods in another, then when I get home, all I'm doing is taking one bag, I'm going to the fridge,
true.
and I'm packing it all.
Right.
So to me, it's logical. It's not about being a perfectionist.
There you go, viewer. You know, you've done really well there.
Yeah, good for you. Good for
Okay,
you.
we're going to go to a quick break, but after the break, we'll be joining us will be clinical psychologist Dr. Jess Zimanski from the USA, and he'll be joining us by Skype. So join us after this. Welcome back to the Chrissy B Show, where we're speaking about what it's like to be a perfectionist and if it's a good or bad thing. And now joining me, I have Dr. Jeff on the line. Good evening.
Hello, how are you?
Hello. How are you?
I'm well.
Thank you so much for joining us. So you were
Absolutely.
hearing
I
our
was listening to the conversation. That was a great conversation.
What did you think about what we were speaking about?
Well, you guys were right on target, I think, on pretty much everything you were talking about. So I just wanted to hit a few points.
Yeah.
One, you guys were talking about perfectionism in different areas of your life. And so I call that a perfectionism profile. So the research is that very few people are actually perfectionists in everything they do. So you guys are right that there's different parts of your life that you're perfectionistic about and other parts you're not.
It'd be a bit of a nightmare if it was every area, wouldn't it? Gosh, imagine. Yeah.
Well, if you think about perfectionism on a continuum, perfectionism on one end is just a personality trait. So it's really about, as your guests were talking about, and you were talking about, there are aspects of my perfectionism that work for me, and I like being a perfectionist. But all the way on the other end, we are talking about obsessive compulsive disorder. That is a subtype of obsessive compulsive disorder, is having problems with perfectionism. Excuse me. And then you have a group of people that have what's called obsessive compulsive personality disorder. And that is, again, being this very rigid perfectionist across the board in ways that get them into a lot of trouble.
What kind of things? And give us some examples.
Yeah, so one of the things that you guys hit on all the different ways of thinking about perfectionism. So one of the hallmarks of a perfectionist is someone who's preoccupied with mistakes. And as you guys were all talking about, that can be something that's healthy or something that's unhealthy. Healthy preoccupation with mistakes is, I want to do the best job I can possibly do. So when I make a mistake, I'm going to self-correct. I'm going to look at that. I'm going to try and determine a solution, a different way of doing things. But on the unhealthy end, it's, this is terrible, this is awful, I'm a bad person. And you get really preoccupied with even little mistakes feel catastrophic. I think another thing that you guys were talking about is personal standards. Personal standards are really the hallmark of healthy perfectionism. I set high standards for myself. I set high goals for myself. And again, I think that this is one of the things that really pushes people to work harder and do better at things. But again, to take it in another context, you can always be setting your standards so high that you're always falling short, and then you end up feeling insecure and feeling less than.
And it kind of backfires on you, doesn't it?
Exactly, and I think that that's the real trick with perfectionism, is understanding that it can work for you and work against you, and it can both at the same time. So for example, you can be focusing on high personal standards, but if you're preoccupied with making mistakes at the same time, that can inhibit your performance. The best way to really strive and achieve what you want is to put aside your preoccupation with mistakes and really focus on what's my goal and how am I going to get there.
How can we reach like a healthy balance then? Because sometimes we don't really know we're being over the top on some things. What was the best? I know we probably can't answer it in one interview, but what maybe one couple of things that you can tell us?
I think a big piece of perfectionism when it's backfiring is that you've lost context. You're just focused.
Oh, have we lost you?
Oh, no.
Sorry?
No. Oh, I thought we lost you. Oh, you're back. Sorry, we lost you for a minute there. Can you say that again, please?
Oh, sorry. So I was saying I think it's about keeping the context and keeping the big picture.
Yeah.
So what happens is, if you're trying to get your way at work, but it's getting in the way of your relationship with your coworker or your boss, then it's not working. And I think the best way to keep it in balance is to, number one, know what's important to you, and to kind of focus on kind of what is the big picture of things. I think the other piece is to really vary up your strategy. I think perfectionists get really caught when they're like, it has to be done this way, I have to use the strategy. And it isn't about lowering the bar. When I challenge people's perfectionism, they're always worried that I'm saying be average and lower the bar, don't work so hard. I'm not saying that. I'm saying stop using that strategy that isn't paying off.
Right, okay. Now, as you heard as well, Thea was speaking earlier about the way she was with her children and sort of being like controlling and things like that. What would you advise mums, for example? Because I know, Thea, you were quite like, you went through it quite a lot, didn't you?
Yeah, definitely. And I think the thing is, for me, the perfection side of things is I worry that we do set our standards a bit too high, I think. I think it's good to have high standards, but the thing is, what I found that I was constantly striving, because I was trying to set up a business alongside a life coaching business, and obviously I had high expectations of that and of myself, even though I don't actually have a lot of time each week, because I do all the childcare as well. So I think I got to the point where I was like, well, what am I actually striving for? Why am I wanting to have this business, and why do I want to do all these things? Is it because I want them for myself, or is it because I want other people to think that I'm good enough?
That's a really good point, isn't it?
That's a great point
as well. What do you think, Tony?
Yes, no, I think that's absolutely the case. The thing is, it is ultimately about self-improvement, I think, but I think the corrosive side is whereby we're obsessed with what other people think of us.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is very corrosive. Self-improvement's great. I think it's a very positive side of perfectionism, because we achieve something, we get a reward from that.
We take responsibility for our own actions and our own life. That's a really good thing. We don't sit there and act a victim. We go, this is what I want, I'm going to go out and get it.
Precisely.
I think it's a really good point that you make as well, because that's being very honest with yourself, and that's great, because sometimes let's admit, we do things for other people to be recognised and stuff, and that's not always healthy, is it, Dr. Jeff?
Well, it's not. It's actually one of the best ways to differentiate between healthy perfectionism and unhealthy perfectionism. Healthy perfectionism is really pleasing ourselves. Unhealthy perfectionism is a preoccupation with pleasing other people. And a lot of the research that has come out has shown that. So you guys are right on with that.
Okay. Now, Dr. Jeff, you've got something really interesting on your website, the Perfectionism Profile Assessment, which I did.
Yes.
That was great. I really enjoyed that. I scored 89. Is that good?
So that means, on average, your perfectionism works more for you than against you.
But I wanted to score 100.
100 would have been better, absolutely. So that means, that score means, on average, you're saying, when I'm acting as a perfectionist, I'm achieving the things that I want, I'm keeping things in perspective, but once in a while, it's backfiring on. Every once in a while, I lose context. Every once in a while, I'm controlling my kid when I don't need to. But on average, it's working for you. And again, whenever I've talked with a perfectionist, there's no way any perfectionist I know is going to give that up. So the trick is more about tweaking it and about how to get it to work for you, because I'm not giving up my perfectionism, and none of the three of you are giving up yours.
Well, I disagree with that, actually.
Yeah.
That's why I call myself a recovering perfectionist, because I want to give it up. I don't think it works for me. I can still aim high, but I can do it in a way that's not, I don't expect perfection, and I don't judge myself, and I do it in a way that works, in a compassionate way. And I don't want to be a perfectionist. I don't want to go through life wanting things to run smoothly and to be in control of everything. I want to get rid of it, because I can still be.
Any advice for Thea?
Well, again, it depends on what you want to call it. She's one of the first perfectionists I've heard that is said, I'm willing to get rid of all this. Some of it is about changing the name of it. She's saying, I want to strive and do my best. But that's what I hear. When I talk with perfectionists, what they say is, I want to strive, I want to stand out, I want to make an impact, I want to achieve my goals. Really, I think of that as part of perfectionism. I think that perfectionism has gotten a bad rap as this kind of, you have to achieve an unachievable ideal. No, I like things done my way. I like things being done well. I think that that's perfectionism. I like that. I don't want to give that up. But I also don't want it backfiring on me. So if I do something wrong, I figure out, what do I want to do different about it next time? I don't need to beat myself up on that.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Tony? Do you want to not be a perfectionist?
No, I quite like being a perfectionist, actually. I think it's only because, as you're speaking to you, I kind of get the the different perspective. Because I'm hearing, when we talk about perfectionism this evening, there are a lot of negative areas. I'm hearing a lot of negative areas. I'm thinking, I don't see that. I think we have to go back to the fact there are extremes of perfect, where it's ruling your life, where you are doing it for other people and you're not doing it for yourself.
You've learned to deal with it, haven't you?
And yeah, it's never been a problem for me. I just like looking at something, saying, right, that's great. That's exactly how I wanted it to be, and I get rewarded from that. But if it doesn't go quite right, of course I'm going to be down about it. But I don't beat myself up. I just say next time it's got to be better.
Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Jeff, can you tell us a bit about the book that you've got as well, please?
Yeah, so I wrote this book. It was based on my work with patients. I worked at a residential facility for people that had an obsessive compulsive disorder. And for 7 years, I ran an hour-long group with a group of people with OCD, and we talked about perfectionism. And so this book really came out of those conversations. And it's from the research that a lot of people have been doing over the last 20 years that have talked about this concept of, number one, what is perfectionism, and how does it work for you, and how does it work against you? And kind of the basic theme of the book is what we're talking about now, is that most perfectionists I work with had no interest in giving it up. They just wanted to find a way to more often make it work for them. And so the book is written with the idea of how can I help your perfectionism pay off for you rather than backfire.
Because I was reading as well an article about it, and it was saying that it can cause depression. If you're the unhealthy perfectionist, causes depression, anxiety, things like that.
Eating disorders, obsessive compulsive disorder, yes, it's linked with a lot of mental health issues. On the extreme end, absolutely.
Right, okay then. Dr. Jeff, thank you so much for your participation. And I do urge everyone to go to your website and actually do the test as well. It's really quite fun.
It'd be good to
So all the details will be up on my website, chrissybisha.tv. Everything's going to be there by tomorrow for everyone to go and take the perfectionism test if they want to. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, see
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye.
So do you still not want to be a perfectionist?
I still don't want to. I think the thing.
I understand your point. I do understand
and it's a case of what are we aiming for? What, you know, maybe we can do it by, we were talking earlier about being more grateful for what we've got already, and just
tell us about that, because you had some points as well to speak about how to
I think
kind of overcome it if you're the viewers agree with Thea and they say, look, I don't want to be anymore. I am, and I don't want to be.
If you're a kind of perfectionist, who is constantly judging yourself and being harsh to yourself, and then I think a good place to start is with gratitude, and you've got to have. We were talking earlier that we both now appreciate our lives, how they are and what we've got, and our families, and what we enjoy about our lives. But you have to be careful that you actually feel that gratitude. Because I've known throughout my whole life how lucky I was. I knew that I had a lovely family and a wonderful husband, but I didn't feel the gratitude inside. But now,
You just thought you should be grateful.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
it.
Yeah, that's another thing about perfectionists do is should. It's always I should be doing this. I should do that. I should do that. And if you just say I could do that instead, it takes the whole weight of the word off your shoulders, and then you're able to deal with that kind of thing a lot better in a healthy way. That's a healthier way to kind of maybe propel you to achieve higher things without putting all the pressure of should. I think really. I think it's it's got to be really careful that you're not striving for something for the wrong reasons. And that's why I want to get rid of it completely.
I think that's a very good point. We were talking about this earlier. We were saying that I often am able to look at what I have and what it enables me to do, and I do feel that gratitude. I'm grateful. But I talk about it all the time. And I think that's another reward system. Again, from being a perfectionist, you strive to achieve more. And then if it does give you more, then obviously the idea is that you appreciate it. But the thing is about a perfectionist as well, you're always going to strive to self-improve. And I don't think that's necessarily a corrosive thing, as long as...
If you've always got this theme running through it, I'll be happy when I lose 2 stone, I'll be happy when I get a new job, I'll be happy when I get married, I'll be happy when I have a child. When is it ever going to end? Yeah. When is that going to end? And
you've kind of about the appreciation.
Yeah, so you've got to come back to I've got to be happy with myself and my life now, before you can actually, move on and be happy in general. Really, it's difficult. It's one of those things you can know it, but you've got to feel it, and the only way you can do that is by kind of working through it gradually.
I think perfectionists as well, they tend to kind of forget things that they've achieved very quickly.
Very
and I
quickly.
think it's a very good exercise to actually write things down, your achievements down, because I did this once. I was challenged to do this at work once, so I was always like, oh, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, I didn't get that done, I didn't achieve this, and it's like, well, hang on, look at what you have actually achieved. And I had to really think about it. But then I had a really long list of things that I'd actually achieved, and I think people don't do that enough, and they don't sort of look back and say, well, I've done great stuff with my life, unfortunately. So I think people have to do that.
I think it's very easy, especially, you know, some people are depressed as well, and you know, they would say when you're depressed, you could win the lottery and still find something to complain about. It is a factual, it is the reality, unfortunately. It is about having tunnel vision. You don't always see that. Sometimes it's about intervention. It's about getting a perspective from friends and family. I know I often have to have some kind of intervention. My sister's often there. I'll have days when I'm down, and I think, you know what, I could be doing more, I should be doing more, but I don't feel really I've achieved much. And then suddenly someone would just bring out this dossier and say, just like you did tonight. I'm saying, well, no, I haven't really done that much. You say, hang on, you've done this, and this. So that's a classic example. Yeah. But the thing is when you say that to me, I'm able to recognise. I think, yes.
There you go. I've helped you to see your achievements, Tony. We can all do more. So don't worry. I know the perfectionists watching us. As we said, you know, the point we're trying to get across is like, don't beat yourself up. Be happy with what you've achieved. Yes, aim higher, but don't get depressed because you haven't achieved certain things yet. Just work towards them if you need to. We've run out of time, guys. Unfortunately, thank you so much. It was great discussion. Really enjoyed it. Thank you so much. And after the break, we'll be featuring a Ladies at Lunch, and I'll be helping out a viewer in the What Would Chrissy Do section. So join us after this. Welcome back to the Chrissy B Show. We've got Chris Brown coming up in just a moment, but first, let's go to this lovely Ladies at Lunch that I went to with Barbara and Joanna. Stay with me, never go away. Hi, I'm here for another Ladies at Lunch on the Chrissy B Show, and today we've chosen a restaurant called Bintang, which is Pan-Asian fusion food, and we're actually in the downstairs part of the restaurant. As you can see, it's very intimate, very cozy, and I'm here with my lovely friends Joanna and Barbara, so we're looking forward to some lovely food.
So here with Omar, the owner of Bintang. So Omar, this is a family-run business, which is something that's really nice. Can you tell us a bit about when you first opened Bintang?
Yeah, I was used as child labour back in 1987. I could hardly reach the sink washing the dishes, but yeah, it's been in the family for about 25 years. I actually had somebody else take over a couple years ago, and I took over it back again 3 months ago, and it's back with the family, and yeah, now we're pushing it, and better and even stronger than ever. Okay, this is our half chicken, baby chicken, marinated for 48 hours and oven baked.
Wow, look at that.
For 2 hours.
There's a lot of different strands of Asian food. Now, specifically, do you have like a mixture of different parts of Asia into this cuisine here at Bintang?
Yeah, we deal with Taiwanese, Korean, Malaysian, Indonesian, a bit of Chinese. I mean, I think this day and age, authenticity is a poor filter for good food. As long as you remember where it came from and how it's done, yeah, as long as it's good, it doesn't really matter. Right now, what we're trying to launch is Gao Bao. It's a Taiwanese so-called taco or Chinese burger, which is an amazing dish. Steamed buns, sliced buns with an assortment of barbecued meats inside. You know, really good food. Almost every dish you're gonna order from here is something that's been part of my childhood. And we try different fillings from different cultures and see how it goes. And right now, that's what we're we're falling in love with it.
Do you know what? The smell came out as we managed to demolish a banquet within like, what, a few minutes? The food was amazing. I think this is one of my favourite ladies at lunch. I absolutely loved the burgers. That was the proper authentic street food, wasn't it? Oh my gosh, delicious.
I like the fish, it's really fresh and it's a very nice taste to it. It's really good. Everything's good.
Well, I like all of it, 'cause I think all the dishes showed a sort of different side to the cuisine. You've got like the sort of curry sauce of the fish, and you've got like a sort of burger. Yeah, I think everyone votes, so that was probably the nicest.
So if you want more information about our lunch today, visit the Chrissy B website, chrissybshow.tv. See you next time. I'm so hungry right now, aren't you, Chris Brown?
Oh yeah, I could do some of that right now, actually, to be honest.
I have to wait till after the show now. Oh. Okay, so you heard our discussion before about perfectionism. So what do you think about that?
Perfectionism, it's funny because there's two sides to it. Is it good or is it bad? In some cases, it's actually very good because I've actually...
Are you a perfectionist?
Am I a perfectionist? Do you know something? It's funny because you guessed the same earlier on. And I thought many times when I've done a seminar after and I'm driving home with my wife, I'm always going, oh, I should have said this. Oh, I should have done that. Oh, what about this bit? What about that bit? Did I see that as a negative? Not exactly. I think that it's just want to get it right. But then for somebody else on the outside, they might turn around and say, well,
but do you dwell on it though? Like, was it something you dwell on and you feel down about, or is it something you just, okay, I've learned from that and then move on?
Not something I feel down about. Would I beat myself up on the night? On the night, yes. The day after, you did it, and that's that at the end of the day, you know, because what could I do? I can't go back into the past, correct anything. All I could do is learn from it and think, how can I get better? And another way of looking at it as well, if you don't think about striving to get better, then you're going to stay at a certain level, aren't you?
That's it, yeah.
But some of us are comfortable with it, so we can't judge anybody. Each person's for their own at the end of the day. And it's funny talking about it, because that's what I was going to talk about. We're talking about underachievers who achieve quite a lot. And there's many people...
Hang on a minute,
underachievers
achieve quite a lot.
Actually achieved quite a lot.
How
so
does that
they
work
might
out?
be known as an underachiever, somebody who has been told, well, you're not going to really do really well, or somebody who hasn't really done very well. There you go. At the beginning, that's a really good one, actually, a really good example, because he got kicked out of the team when he was a kid and said, no, he's no good, couldn't shoot basketball. He went home and cried about it. He went home, locked his room, cried about it. But that turned inside out, didn't it? Because look at Michael Jordan. I mean, everybody knows worldwide who Michael Jordan is. Now, would that be the case of underachiever? Would that be perfectionist or a great achiever? You see, so it's down to an individual as well. I mean, you mentioned Michael Jordan. I went through a list of people and I thought, well, actually, is it good or is it bad? And I'll throw out that question, actually. It's pretty we didn't have a phone in right now, because I actually throw it up thinking, well, is it good or is it bad? And just as you mentioned about myself as well, I thought about many things that I went through, and I thought, well, the beating up yourself about it, is it good or is it bad? Then I looked at other people who went through it, who we actually look to today. And I thought of, there was a particular woman, right? And I said to you, did you smell my cologne? Did you smell my cologne? Smell it.
That's nice.
Yeah, so it was nice. I use that all the time. Guess who did that? Vera Wang. You know Vera Wang? Great. Lovely cologne. It's not chicken roti or anything like that.
Are you sure?
Yeah, it's not chicken roti. It's, Vera Wang. And she started off, she was US figure skater. Failed in that era. Decided to go make a wedding dress. Decided that wasn't good, but fine enough, it kicked off. It went really well. Got into the fashion, the cologne, the perfumes, everything. Everybody knows Vera Wang. So she realised her own talent inside of her, what she was really made out for. Instead of saying, well, I failed at being a figure skater, she used it instead, turned it inside out. Somebody else might have just given up on that. Then we've got many other people as well. I'll tell you something. There's a particular woman that we all know, and I wonder if you can actually work out who she is. She was told that she'd be, she used to work for a film company, and she failed there, and they kicked her out. Columbia, big pictures, kicked her out, said that she doesn't look beautiful enough, and also told that she's a failure and she can't act. But you never believe who it is. I think we got her up on here on screen actually at the moment. Do we have her on screen here? There you go.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Marilyn Monroe. Now imagine she's been told she doesn't look good by Columbia Pictures. Shouldn't really shout out, should I? Right, and then she's been told that she can't act and useless. But then there must have been something inside of her that said, look, I'm still going to try.
That's what I'm saying, because I think everyone has a dream inside of them. They always have something that they want to achieve. But that differentiates those that win and those that lose, because those that, you know, really believe in themselves. They will go for it no matter what people say around them, and it kind of makes them even more determined to achieve that dream. But others will just crumble at maybe a sentence someone says, or maybe if their parents say something to them, they'll just crumble and think, well, I can't do it, it's not achievable because this person said I couldn't do it. But I think in that case, you need to let those negative comments drive you even more to even prove to people, prove to yourself first of all, and then prove to other people as well that you can do it.
And you said to yourself first. I mean, would we get it as perfectionist or somebody who's just driven? Which would you say?
Yeah, it's true.
I just wonder about someone. Yeah, it's in between lines.
Yeah.
Somebody who's driven or perfectionist. Then we've got, let's think about Sidney Poitier as well. We've got Sidney Poitier coming up. Now, he went to an audition and he was told that, give it up, go and wash dishes. That's what he was told.
Really?
He was actually told to go, this is something, yeah, well, that's how the industry goes, isn't it?
Gosh, go and wash dishes.
Go and wash dishes at the end of the day. Today, he's the only black actor up there to first get the Academy Award.
Wow.
First one of that trophy at the end of the day. Now think about it. If he took on board and think, well, yeah, all right, I'll just go and wash dishes. I go back to that same thing. Is it someone driven or is it somebody who wanted to be a perfectionist? Being told they're not good enough, but still just carried on all the way through. And I could run through a whole list. I won't through a list. I'll go through quite a few, actually. Let's think about Albert Einstein.
Oh, yeah.
Albert Einstein.
Oh, bless him.
Yeah.
He's got nice hair, isn't he?
It's a great hairstyle, isn't it? Yeah. Right, Albert Einstein, great one. I always think that's brilliant. Said he was a slow learner, didn't have capacity to learn anything, but look, today, we all know who Albert Einstein is. Worldwide, we know who Albert Einstein is as well. So, and that again, is that perfectionist? Is that somebody striving? Is that somebody who believes in what they wanted and are just going for it at the same time? And I'll go through about 3 more. We got Abraham Lincoln as well, right? He studied law for himself and poor upbringing. Didn't cut it at the end of the day. Studied himself, actually passed the bar. And
see, that kind of addresses the people that say, I can't do this because I don't have X, Y, and Z.
Exactly.
So I can't do law. If he said, I can't go into law politics because I didn't study law. But he still made a way, didn't he?
He found a way. He made a way. He taught himself to read.
We can make a lot of excuses sometimes in our mind to say why we can't do certain things.
Exactly.
But if we need to look at what we do have. The drive in us, the interest in the subject, all those kind of things.
Yes. Many times I'll say, just you actually hit the point. The drive we've got inside of us. No, that's great. No, I think it's great. Because each one of us, we do have something inside of us at the end of the day. But we try to compare it to systems that are made out and said, look, you've got to do it this way, that way, that way. But we have something inside of us. And obviously he knew what he wanted to do. There must have been an end goal at the end of it to say that, well, why would you go and study law at the first place if you didn't have an end goal? So he knew, and he wanted to achieve, high achiever at the end of the day. Then we've got, this one always bowls me over, Beethoven. Beethoven. He's deaf. 9 symphonies and he's deaf. Beethoven, I mean, where does that come from? Is that determination, perfection, or what?
Wow.
Yeah? Beethoven, right? Now, worldwide, again, this guy's deaf and he's written 9 symphonies, right? If you were teaching somebody at that time music and you knew they were deaf,
it's like, what? Go
exactly, yeah, exactly. I think that's great. I think that's brilliant. And then we've got here Ursula Burns as well. Ursula Burns.
It's not a very flattering picture, Chris.
Oh, well, I did take that one.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Ursula Burns, CEO, rank Xerox. Yeah. Brilliant. Right, started from humble beginnings, Fortune 500, right at the top. There we go again. Now, I go back to the same question right from the beginning. Is that perfectionist? Is that driven? Is it such a bad thing? You know, I think it's a bad thing if it gets out of control.
We need to have balance, basically.
Yeah, we've got to have balance. That's what it is. We've got to have balance. We've got to find out what we really want, who we really are, and
the reason why we're doing what we're doing.
Purpose.
Yeah,
that's it.
Exactly.
Purpose. And not beat yourself up over it at the end of the day. You know, as I've learned each other.
Yeah.
Right,
Chris, thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Okay, so just before we go, I just want to let you guys know about something really, really special and important that's happening on the 24th. That's next week. We're going to be having a special march for violence against women, basically to abolish violence against women, if we can do that. And we're basically joining, and I think, Chris, you're invited to come as well, even though it's like a female-oriented event, but everyone's invited to come. We're going to be marching. It's an International Day, actually, for against violence against women.
Brilliant.
And also, I'll be co-hosting an event as well where we'll be having special guests on. They're going to talk about their past. We're going to have experts on to talk about it as well. And it's going to be something really, really good. And I really urge everyone to come along. All the details will be up on my website, chrissybshow.tv, because, you know, we had a guest on quite recently, Chris. She'd suffered 45 years of abuse. 45 She'd been sexually, emotionally and physically abused by her parents, first of all, from age 4. She said she can't remember ever not being abused. Terrible, honestly. Her story, the story's up on YouTube as well if you want to see that on the show.
That affects the whole family as well, isn't it? Not just the wife and the husband, it affects the children as well.
Everyone, Then she got sold into marriage, and then she married someone else, and she got beaten up on her wedding day in front of all her wedding guests. And, you know, she talked about all the terrible things and why she actually stayed in that relationship as well. Sometimes we think, well, why doesn't the person just leave? Why doesn't the person just go? But if you watch the show and if you come along to the event, you'll know what actually goes through the mind of a victim, why it isn't that easy just to leave like that. And we're really going to be helping a lot of women on the day. So please do visit the website to get involved, chrissybshow.tv. Well, we have reached the end of the show. Chris, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So remember, it's great to be a perfectionist in some ways, but don't overdo it and beat yourself up in the meantime as well. So we'll see you again next time on the Chrissy B Show. And thanks for watching. Bye-bye for now.